Acid reflux is an interesting name to me. It's a new disorder, new disease they make a lot of money on. And when I was a kid, it was called stop eating the crap. No longer, now it's acid reflux. And they have pills for it, of course, that suppress your acids in your body and end up giving you ulcers and different problems, and even can precipitate different forms of cancer, lymphoma, etc. So my thought on this, quite simply, is to stop eating the nonsense. That's number one. Alkalize the body. Once you stop eating the nonsense, you alkalize the body. The acid goes down. And in the process of getting rid of this, for yet preventing it, what I think you should do is take raw apple cider vinegar, 3, 4, 5 tablespoons in a quart of pure water, and drink that throughout the day. There are natural sodium bicarbonate that you can take, baking soda. Make sure it doesn't have aluminum in it. Putting that in water and drinking it also helps to neutralize. Ripe organic lemons, putting that in water, or combinations of these things, all help to relax the esophageal area and calm auto reflux. It's very, very, very rare, unless you've had a regurgitation problem for a long time, that you can't correct this. And that's very rare, by the way. It's less than 3 or 4% of the people. But there are people who, by the way, have regurgitated so often that anatomically they've created a problem. Type 2 diabetes, it's stop eating animals and the milk from their bosoms, exercise, aerobically, weightlifting, etc. Stop eating sugars of all type completely. Continue to take the high proteins you get in this HIPPOCRATES plant-based diet. This is the highest protein diet in the world. It regulates blood sugar. And take supplementation like algae, which is the highest protein food on the earth. Throughout the day, you take little chlorella, spread it out every 2, 3, 4 hours. Every time you want a candy bar or orange juice or organic mango, you basically take these, put them in your mouth, regulate blood sugar. Boy, kidney disease is one of those looming in the background, skyrocketing. The physicians now, the researchers, estimate that half of us will have it by the end of this century. That's frightening. It used to be, when I was young, it was the African American community and the Hasidic Jewish community that had this. They were the only people I saw chronic, large numbers of kidney disease. As I got older and started to wake up a bit, I started to realize it's this high animal-based diet that they have. Your body cannot chelate, your kidney cannot chelate animal fat and high animal proteins, so it actually breaks down. It's like trying to use a muscle lifting 2,000 pounds. Eventually you rip it and the muscle no longer works. And that's what happens to the kidney. The kidney is not this very heavy, strong organ. It's a water-based organ with very thin tissue in it. So it's volatile and vulnerable and easy to hurt, easy to destroy. So you've got to give up the animal-based foods. You've got to clean up the body. You've got to drink adequate amounts of fluid. You've got to hydrate your body. There's really pure electrolytes now you can put into water that taste good and they can help you. And you've got to hope you don't get so bad that you need dialysis. To me, one of the curses of all disease is kidney dialysis. And you need it. Thank God medicine has created that today. It's either death or kidney dialysis if you have kidney failure. But the reality is nobody I know should ever have to want to do that, because you're hooked up 3, 4 hours a day, 3 days a week. You have no life anymore. And it is going to be half the population that have kidney disorder. It used to be Hasidic Jews and African Americans. We all eat the same now. Back then they ate garbage. Today we all eat garbage. Matter of fact, you have people, the wealthiest people in the country, that they eat out of fast food restaurants. When you look at the lungs, this is another frightening area that's looming in the background. Again, by the end of the century, they estimate that well over half of us are going to have lung problems. When I was young, it was pretty easy, although wrong, to say, well, if you have lung cancer, it's because you smoke cigarettes. Now we're clear that up to 1/3 of the people never smoked a cigarette. We're getting from air pollution, we're getting from indoor pollution, we're getting it from dust mites, we're getting it from not supporting the lungs with nutrients that the lungs need, the elasticity of the lungs. We're not breathing correctly. The more stress we have, the less we breathe. Our capacity for oxygen becomes less. We also look at lung problems as being a water deficiency. 60% of the population is dehydrated. So that means you don't get adequate amounts of water. And here's a basic rule. Now, we're going to give some nuance and caveat to this too. If you take your body weight and cut it in half, that's how many ounces you need a day. So if you're a 200-pound man, you need actually 100 ounces of fluid a day. Pure, clean fluid. We're not talking about alcohol. We're not talking about milk. We're not talking about milkshakes or sodas. We're talking about pure water, juices made of green, vegetables that are organic. These are the things that you need. Now the caveat is if you're an athlete, and how about if you're an athlete in the Middle East or an athlete in Arizona where it's arid? You're going to need more than that. How about if after that, as I do 365 days a year, as I did this morning, I jump into a sauna for 20, 30 minutes. So now, in my life, my body weight, which is about 180 pounds, I'm drinking at minimum 90 ounces to 100 ounces of fluid a day. But usually it's more than that. Usually it's 120 to 130 because I do saunas daily, I do exercise daily, I do not live in an arid climate. So. When we talk about pregnancy, this is something I'm most happy about because although Hippocrates is known for us teaching a lot of people and giving them the tools so they could recover from big disease, I can't count the amount of families that came to us, young couples who could not have babies and did. Endless amounts. And not only within the raw, organic, plant-based living food do you have the highest amount of nutrients, you have the highest amount of hormones. And why today 1/3 of our young married couple in the developed world are struggling to have children is their hormones are non-existent or completely problematic at this stage. They have too much of something or too little of something or combinations of too much or too little. For instance, 40-year-old young men in the West cannot sexually perform now, 50% of you. That's pretty frightening. So we're not talking about 70-year-old men, which I could have said 45 years ago. We're actually saying to you now, 40-year-old young men, half of them cannot perform. And it's going to get worse. Why? Because they clog up their ventricles. Eggs and sperm are created from leukocytes, white blood cells, immune system. And in fact, if your immune system's weak to begin with, because all you do is have stress and sit around and watch television and get upset and eat garbage and drink and smoke cigarettes, of course you're going to have a problem with that. And so the hormones go wacky on you. So once we clean people's bodies out, we start to nourish their body and support their body, the hormone balance and the hormones from this raw, organic, living green food is phenomenal. And I don't know how many times we've actually had tears in our eyes, 2, 3, 4 months after people are on the program, they have children. You can get on the Hippocrates website and see some of those stories. So it's my favorite thing we do, actually. And let me also add this, it's interesting. When we wrote, Anna Marie and I wrote our book on sex, that was an entertaining and interesting 2.5-year period that we looked at. One of the things I was really shocked to find is the #1 user group for Viagra are young boys between 20 and 28. They use it as a recreational drug. And I can tell you, the average 20, 25, 28-year-old certainly should not need and does not need Viagra. And some of the serious members of the medical community started to recognize this is going to be a real problem. They'll be dead in the water by 35. And they started to investigate at Texas A&M, great research institute, what natural food or what natural product could actually work better than or as well as Viagra. They found watermelon. Watermelon, literally in the seeds and the rind, more so than the red part of the watermelon, has something called citrulline in it that was actually up to 2 to 3 times more effective than Viagra. And it works for females as well as males. So some of the products that we've helped other companies produce, we've made sure they put pure watermelon forms of citrulline in there. So that does help quite a bit. And by the way, anything that opens up the capillaries and the ventricles in the body, remember 74% of the blood go through capillaries, not veins. We always, even I say veins, it's not veins. And it's 26 are veins, 74 capillaries. When you open that up, it's good for the memory, it's good for the brain, it's good for the libido, it's good for the heart. And when you look at this, we also add in nitric oxide. Nitric oxide, you may remember, goes back to the Nobel Prize in the late 90s, and it is phenomenal. And everything we've just mentioned, I'll repeat, good for the head, good for the heart, good for the libido. But if you keep eating cheeseburgers and French fries and eggs, you're going to end up in trouble with libido and lung problems and kidney problems, because when blood does not get somewhere, you degrade the tissue, you degrade the organs, you degrade the bones, you degrade the brain.